Okay, zoning board, we are live. We're recording. Phone lines are open. Go for it.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming tonight. Welcome to the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals hearings for March 21st, 2023, and welcome to spring. We have 4 public hearings scheduled for tonight, and I'll read the first one into the record. The applicant is Bill Harron at 46 Settlers Landing Lane, East Hampton, Suffolk, tax map number 300-55-8-20. The size and location is 20,020 square feet at 46 Settlers Landing Lane in Settlers Landing, Section 1, Lot 12, map number 4656 in East Hampton. The description is an appeal of the building inspector's determination dated January 24th, 2022 concerning 255-11-67A3 of the Town Code. The relief sought is an appeal of the building inspector's dated January 24th, 2022 concerning 255-11-67A3 of the Town Code. Appellant seeks to challenge the building inspector's determination that the residence as constructed does not comply with 255-11-67A3. The appellant contests that every room is readily accessible by passage through the interior of the residence through a common entrance. Zoning district is B residence, zone X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. And council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
We do. Pursuant to East Hampton Town Code, Section 255-9-23, we have certified mailings done on March 9th, 2023, and a posting to the property done on March 10th, 2023.
Thank you. And I did the field report, and the first photo is a photo of the posting properly posted. So basically, I'm taking a couple of photos here. This is what I'll call the main part of the house that has the garage within it, and beyond that is the added section. And that's another angle looking at it. I didn't take a lot of photos. I'm going to refer to most of the photos, the existing interior photos that are already in the file. I think they're going to be part of the record this evening. So you can see there, you see the garage, the breezeway, and the added portion of the house. And with that, do we have the applicant or agent? How are you, Thomas?
Hi, my name is Thomas Crouch of Crouch McWilliams Law Group, and I'm representing Bill and Carol Herron, who are here tonight. Now, I know the notice says the January 2022 determination.
It was sooner than that.
Well, it was basically I tried to find that original determination, and per the town attorney's office advice, we had Ann formalize her determination, which was dated February 21st, 2023. And so that's just, I think that the finding is the same. It's just we didn't have record of a January 2022 determination, and she didn't have it, and I didn't have it from any prior. So basically, the determination which we're discussing tonight is a letter dated February 21st, 2023. So, Kylie, can you pull up the architectural plan? I think sheet 210. So this is, yeah, that one, thanks. So this is the addition. So this is the first floor plan of the original structure. And the addition is everything this way. So basically, my clients applied for a permit, and originally they actually had submitted for a permit for a detached addition, but it had to be attached due to the size. And so they received a building permit and built it to the plans that are, in the permit. So this plan was approved, and they got a building permit, and then they built it. And then on the CO inspection is when this issue with 255-11-67 came up. So, that, and if you look, this is the first floor. This is the garage that's at issue here. And then if you control the next sheet. And so this is the second floor that shows the roof of the addition. And this is just the living room, bedroom, bathroom with a stairwell down to the garage. And if you look, sorry, can you go back to Q10 again? Yeah, and then this is that stairwell. You enter the garage from this way and then enter the addition that way. So anyway, looking at this letter from February 21st, 2023, I think there's 4 errors in the determination. The first one is it references the state code, specifically New York State Residential Code R 3111.1.1 means of egress. And if you look at the plans, sorry, that state code regards egress, and there's egress out of the addition. There's egress out of the garage. Like, you don't have to go through the garage to get outside. And I think that's what that state code section is referring to. So that state code section is not really applicable here. And, you know, if you look, I submitted a letter, but if you look at the building department worksheet, on their inspection, they didn't flag any issue with the state code. So I'm not sure why that is in this determination. And we also, as part of the letter that I submitted, got an opinion from the Department of State regarding just the applicability of that state code section in this issue. And you can review that. That's consistent with our interpretation that regards egress, and that's not an issue here.
But the matter is the second floor above the garage, right? The egress from there, not the lower part of the addition. So the egress is going through the garage out the addition. Is that correct?
No, it's not. It's
Trying to figure out what the matter is. So in other words, you're at the second floor over the garage,
yeah. So there's this is the first floor,
right?
and so if you go to the second floor,
So in other words, you have to, in order to egress that second floor, you have to go down those stairs into the garage.
you don't have to go into the garage though. It's down the stairs, and then there's a door out this way, and then there's a door into the garage. So it's like a hallway.
Is
So
there
there's
a
two
door
ways.
out from the
So
upstairs?
It's like a corridor? Is it a,
No, there's no. So the door. So you walk down this from the second floor. You walk down the stairs, and then you can turn left and go outside, or you can turn left. Sorry, you turn right and go outside, or you turn left and go into the garage.
Okay,
Okay.
of course. The egress that
photo
shows at
4?
the top, is there an egress from the,
No, that's in. Sorry, that's in the garage.
is there an egress from the living space on the floor above the garage?
Yeah, that's what
Directly
he's saying,
outside,
that's the
directly
stairs.
outside?
Well, no, this is on the second
Through the
floor.
stairs.
You have to go down these stairs and out.
That's the only way out,
Yeah.
right up there. Okay.
But you also can go into the breezeway from the garage.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And
Right.
I'm saying that-
So there's an in and an out.
Photo 9.
I think the reason why the state code would apply is if the only way to get out of this addition was to go through the garage and out this way.
Right.
But there's not, there's doors right here. So
Okay.
that's why I think the state code doesn't apply.
Right, okay. I got
but-
that.
Anyway, moving on to so I think the second error in this determination is that 255.11.67.3 says there shall be one common entrance on the ground floor through which every room other than the utility room shall be readily accessible by passage to the interior of the residence. This subsection shall not apply to an affordable accessory apartment. This garage, you know, it is a room, and especially just the way it exists now, it's 1,200 square feet. It's the basically entire first floor of this. It's conditioned space. It's got a television. It's got, seating. It's not, I think looking at this, it would be just walking through it. It is part of the residence.
What's conditioned space?
It's got heat.
What, the
AC.
garage?
Yes.
Mhm.
Right, but it's still a garage, right? There's conditions, there's life safety conditions with a garage relative to firewall, fire stopping, stuff like that, right? So there's a reason I think you just can't say that a garage, being that it's conditioned, is a finished space.
No, well, I think it's a garage because they store the cars there. That's the defining feature. that
Right,
makes
but
a
but it
garage.
sounds like you're making the argument that it's a finished space because it's conditioned.
Well, it is. I mean, it's got because the house is built above it, there has to be some fireproofing.
Right, but the garage space itself is not a living space. It's not a condition, it's because it's conditioned does not make it a living space.
Right. Well, that's the argument in this
That's right.
determination. That's what
That's all right.
that's
So go
the issue. That's why we're here. So,
Uh-huh.
but when you look at these plans and the way the house is used, and the fact that it is conditioned, our position is that it is within the interior of the residence. This code section 255-1167 it doesn't say anything about habitable living space. It just, through which every room shall be readily accessible by passage to the interior of the residence. There's no, there's nothing further defining room or interior of the residence to mean habitable living space. And when you look at this, it literally supports the living space above, and it's basically the entire first floor. And so factually, it is the interior of the residence. And so that kind of leads into my third error that I think is in this determination is that it states that the determination states that a garage is not part of the residence, whether attached or detached. It is considered an accessory structure to the dwelling. There's a problem with that, and that's in section 255-1123. There's a limitation on the size of accessory structures, and the limitation is 600 square feet. And this garage is 1,200 square feet, and it's had a CO since 2011. And so I think it's too big to qualify as an accessory structure under this, under the town code. So in looking at it, it doesn't really make sense as an accessory structure because the size and the position and the fact that it's, factually it's would be considered interior of the residence. So, and then fourth, I think there's an error because, this also states that is considered accessory structure to the dwelling as it is also eliminated from the gross floor area for living space. There's no defined term in the town code for gross floor area for living space. I understand, and I see it here that a garage is not habitable living space. But the definition of gross floor area does include garages. It includes all accessory structures. So if the argument is that, the garage doesn't count toward GFA, so it can't count as interior of the residence, that contradicts the plain language of the code. The code says that a garage, the code defines gross floor area and specifically includes accessory structures and doesn't accept garages. So those are, to me, those are the four errors in this determination. And, what we're asking is that the board find that, this property is not in violation of 255-1167-3. But last, before I, open it up, there's two cases I want to cite and put in the record, and I brought copies for Hope. First, in Joy Builders versus Town of Clarkstown, 165 83rd, 1084, Second Department, 2018. Court states, the pertinent statutes must be construed as they are written according to the ordinary meaning of their language, seeking to harmonize the whole and to avoid rendering any part surplusage. And then the second case is Boney Enterprises LLC versus Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Clifton Park, 124 83rd, 1052, Third Department, 2015. The court says the following: because zoning ordinances are in derogation of common law, they must be strictly construed against the municipality that drafted them, and any ambiguity must be resolved in favor of the property owners. So I just cited those cases because I think looking at these code sections and reading them together, you know, as I've discussed in these 4 errors, I think it's, you know, the board needs to find for my client based on what's in these cases.
What was the first part of the second case you said versus the ZBA? I missed the first.
Yeah,
Clarkstown was,
Basically, those two are basically the interpretation of the code, literal, right? Is basically why you brought
Right.
those two cases up.
basically the point I'm trying to make is that, you know, the first one is saying that the code needs to be interpreted as the plain reading.
Correct.
And the second one is that that because the zoning ordinance is in derogation of common law, it must be strictly construed against the municipality and in favor of the property owner.
so again, I asked you, who was it versus the ZBA? Just
Oh,
give me the name
sorry.
again.
Boney Enterprises LLC.
Boni. Okay.
Yes, BONI.
We're going to
Okay,
get copies
thank
of
you.
that.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we'll have Ann come up, right? How are you, Ann?
Lennon, Principal Building Inspector.
And do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the
I
truth?
do.
Thank you.
I'll refer to what Thomas was talking about as far as the reason I put in the state code was I was just trying to show that the state shows that you cannot go from a house through a garage to exit your home. You have to have another exit. We did tell the homeowners originally they wouldn't need a variance from the state because they do have a direct access out of this additional square footage that they built. I just put it in there to show that they don't allow you not have a door to go through your garage. We do it with basements. Somebody finishes their basement and they gotta do a hallway out to a door. They can't go through their garage below and exit the house. That's the only reason that was in there. As far as it not getting caught during the building was because they had finished the garage without ever coming to anybody. They never got permits to finish the garage. It was finished, so it kind of got missed when they were doing their inspections. It was just finished space. It wasn't until the end when the final inspector saw the car in there, or the cars, that they caught that it was a garage. It has a bathroom, it's fully sheetrocked, it's everything. In fact, they recently legalized it to become part of the house to try to resolve this. So that's where that part of it got
It's
missed.
still a garage.
It's still a garage. They use it to park cars
The
in.
original has living over a garage. That's correct.
Correct.
So it was
The-
legal before with that stair
It was a
corridor
carriage
coming down.
house. That's what it's called. It's
And it was legal before with coming down the stairs and exiting.
and entering out a front door and then another door that goes to the garage.
Can you walk us through those drawings as to what the issue is here?
Because the only way to access the living space that they built, you
That's
have
the new
addition,
additions?
correct. You
Is-
would have to go through, come downstairs, go through the garage door, go through the garage and go into the new addition.
Through the
The
breezeway.
issue here is access and not so much egress. The egress, we have the
Correct.
egress in the addition,
Yes.
but the access going through the
It's
garage.
the access coming through the garage. And as far as GFA, when people come to us and build a house and they build a garage attached, we don't count the garage as GFA because of this section of the code. We never have. This goes way back before even me. It doesn't get counted unless they come to us and say, we're converting the garage to living space. That's when it becomes GFA as part of the home. Other than that, and it says it in that section of the code, attached or detached, the garage is considered accessory structure. The only thing it says about accessory structures is if they're detached, they can't be bigger than 600 square feet. But you can attach a shed to a house. It still doesn't make it living space. You know, people do it all the time. It's just, if you want it bigger than 600 square feet in accessory structure, you have to attach it to the house. Because then at some point, if you wanted to make it living space, you could.
So it's not a safety issue where we're discussing here, or is
It
it
is
a safety issue?
issue.
So it's a safety issue. Okay.
Yeah,
So
because
it's a
you're gonna be
safety issue
going
based
through
on
a
how we define the garage. That's basically it.
Mhm.
And if this was converted, as you said, there was an effort to start that conversion, this would go away. but it's not
Correct.
gonna- It would go away.
They
if
would
this
have to
was
just sheet rock in front of the garage
Right.
doors and not use it as a
Permanently close the
garage.
garage
They'd have
doors
to
and then
make
it
it part
becomes
of the
living
house.
space.
Make it part of the
Okay,
house.
but as of now, even though they made other improvements, nonetheless, it's still by your definition a garage. And therefore, that's our
And
problem.
that's how they would like to keep it, to be able to utilize it.
In your determination, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Terry.
ahead.
No, go for it.
No, okay. So the garage is 1,200 square feet, according to council. He said the
It
garage
could
is
be. I
actually quite
apologize. I
larger
did
than a
not bring-
regular accessory maximum. So
Yeah.
that would have made it illegal at that time.
If it was detached, it couldn't be
Oh,
1,200.
it's
But
only-
as long
the
as you attach a
limitation is only
garage to the
detached?
main,
Okay,
you can make it as big as you want,
okay.
meaning your,
And then you said that they did legalize this garage now, as finished
they
living
came in for a
space?
permit when they were going to try to, we were going to try to work it out and they were going to make it living space. But then it came down to, so they brought in a permit, legalized it for living space, which they would have to do either way to a certain degree because it's all finished, bathroom, everything. But we couldn't agree on them closing up the garage doors. We were going to let them leave the garage doors, but it's needed to be insulated in sheetrock because, I mean, somebody walking from one to the other and a car pulling in or out or a car running in there. I mean,
I don't think a living space is meant to have a car inside of it. That's a garage. But, so the question in your letter, item number 2, floor area habitable or livable,
mhm.
you talk about excluded areas. And it says, in calculating this figure, all porches, patios, garage, breezeways, terraces, and other attached and detached accessory buildings or structures shall be excluded.
Excluded, right. They're not counted as
And that's-
part of the living space.
So the safety issue, I want to come back to that again. The safety issue is based on the fact that there could be other activity in that garage. It could be detrimental to people being in the garage. It could be used as a shop or anything else. And therefore, that's not a safe place for people to walk back and forth in their pajamas, right? Basically, right? So that's that. Egress is not a problem because we have egress in both places and they're
Correct.
perfectly legal. So the whole issue right now is just passing through the garage and that's it. Bottom line.
It says passage through the interior of the residence.
Right. So the other section of the code says you have to be able to access every portion of the house, which we've always interpreted as the living space of the house from the main floor of the residence.
The residents.
But if you're going through a garage, I don't feel like you're doing that to get to the other section.
Well, the second floor is not directly attached to the addition.
Well, they have a stairway, a
Through the
finished
garage, through
hallway
the garage,
stairway.
but
Yeah, and if
no
the
other.
garage is finished all the way through to the rest of it, then it would all be a flow. But it's a garage, cars are parked in there.
And is the breezeway a factor at all in this?
Breezeway just connects it,
It just connects.
makes it a connection.
Close if it's a breezeway.
So it would eliminate this being limited in size.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
Anybody in the public would like to address this? Thomas, come on up. Matt, anybody on the phone, Matt? On this?
No callers, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that is a limitation on accessory structures. There's no distinction in that section between attached and detached or size.
But there is a distinction of a garage.
Well, it just, in the limitation of accessory structures section, it just says accessory structures are, the limit is 600 square feet.
But that size on that's on a detached accessory.
It doesn't distinguish between the two. It just says accessory structures. That's the thing is it doesn't distinguish between the way the code is written. The size limitation doesn't distinguish between an attached or a detached accessory structure.
And how does, I'm missing the point, how that applies here.
Because it says in this determination that a garage is not considered a part of the residence, whether attached or detached. It is considered an accessory structure to the dwelling.
That's correct. right?
That's what it says here, but the problem is it can't be an accessory structure to the dwelling if it's over the size limitation.
But what about the passage issue?
Well,
We're
I
talking
mean, the
about
passage
passage
issue
here.
is that there's nothing, 255-1167 says nothing about living space. It's every room other than a utility room shall be readily accessible by passage to the interior of the residence. Our argument is that this is in the interior of the residence. It's not further defined in the
So
code.
your argument is that the garage is living space.
My argument is that the garage is a room in the interior of the residence.
But what about the exclusionary in item number 2 that I read earlier?
Right, well, that's not in 255-1167-3. That's not our, whether it's living space or not, 255-1167-3 does not say that all the living space must connect to all of the other living space.
So I'm 255-1163. You're arguing only because that's the posting here?
Well, I'm arguing that because that's why we're here.
Or are
If
we
we didn't
arguing-
have that, we
Or
wouldn't
are
be
we
here.
arguing code? I mean, you build a structure, you're responsible to meet code, right? So no matter what it is, no matter if it's in one section or another, right? In other words, if you build egress, you still have to meet fire code, which is in another section of the building code, right? So you can't say that I only have to meet code for this one section.
Well, a living space is not, if the code says every room has to connect, like, why would we be in violation of, what would living space have to do with it then? Because it's every room shall be readily accessible by passage to the interior of the residence. That's why we're here. We're not here because we're trying to say the garage is living space.
But I'll stop after this, and she's also citing 55-120 definition.
Right, but that definition can be true. I'm not arguing that a garage is living space. But that's still, what I'm arguing is that 255-1167-3, it doesn't say living space. So, like, we're trying, the garage doesn't have to be living space. I concede that's what the definition says, but we're still, that section is the reason why we're here. And it just says every room shall be readily accessible by passage to the interior of the residence. And our argument is that this is the interior of the residence. As far as, when I retained this client, I met with Ann and we attempted to resolve it. We talked about converting the garage. There was no discussion about the garage doors. It was just that, my clients have very, very nice cars in there. And we talked about trying to find a way to, store the cars otherwise, and that was not possible. So, that's why we're pursuing this appeal. Their position, this is CO'd as a garage. It's been CO'd as a garage since 2011. They got permits to do this. They built it to the permit. I understand there's a mistake. It happens. But that's, we're not here because we've done something with the garage, that the town was not aware of. We're here because, we built this addition, and on the CO inspection, the town flagged an issue with 255-1167-3. Anybody, any other questions?
With respect to the living space, I mean, is the garage included in the GFA today?
Well, no. Well, the thing is that the building department doesn't count it toward GFA, but in the town code, under the definition of GFA, it counts accessory structures. And as this determination states, it's an accessory structure. So, it doesn't count as living space. I'm not arguing that it counts as living space, but it does count toward GFA. At least as far as what's written in the town code.
So the garage with, yeah.
Okay, any questions further?
Not for Tom, but can we get Ann back again?
Yeah, Ann, can you come up? A couple more questions.
Yeah, I just have a question. If hypothetically, a two-car garage attached to a house. I decide to put an office upstairs. The only way is for me to go from my house to the office. Is that office going to be legal or not legal?
They
if
would
we
have
come
to build
into-
a hallway,
You would have to build a corridor.
access from the house to a hallway that would.
Same
take you
thing we
up
have
there.
here. If this was attached in the other direction, this wouldn't be the problem. In other words, if the addition came out and was attached directly to the hallway. But I'd have to cordon that off from the garage in order to make that accessory
Correct.
built room. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's wraps it up, right?
Somebody, a client wants to speak? No.
Would you like to speak? Your name?
Mike Gilroy, just in the wrong direction.
Okay. Just,
And I'm an architect.
can you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. I think there's, I was listening, and there's just some confusion between the building code and the zoning code. Because the building code is a life safety code, and it clearly states you can't egress through a garage, which is not safe, because the garage is a higher hazard. And logically, basically the second floor goes out the stairs and out the front door. The other room just goes out to the patio. But on the part about accessing, this whole building is the residence. You walk up, there's the building, it's the residence. So-and-so lives in that house. And even your single-family house goes to the vernacular saying that defines this as commonly known as a house. So this is a house. And what we're trying to say is that in this house, you can go from any door through the house to access any other part of the house. Whether it's an accessory structure, garage, you're allowed to be in the garage regardless. Not during an emergency, it's not wise, but you can be in your garage. And so the argument about fumes and all, well, you're in the garage, you're polishing the car, versus, you walk through your garage briefly, you're not even occupying it, you're just going through it. So therefore, I think in the spirit of that section, we do access every part of the interior of this residence by going on this path through the garage. I don't think there's a life safety issue in that. I don't think it's unusual in that people go in the garages all the time, get groceries out of the car, we're walking through it. That's, I think, what we're saying. And commonly, is that you can walk through our garage when there's no emergency.
And what's been established is that egress is met.
Isn't that New York
Is
State
met.
Technical Division? I wrote them, they responded and said, clearly we're fine. They mentioned, yeah, you got two doors, what are you asking us? So I think it's really a simple thing on this, and it really doesn't, we're getting hung up on what is this? Is it legal? Is it not legal? Is it accessory? Is it a structure? It's the house as residence, and we're walking through the residence as the part of the code says. That's a simple argument.
Thank you.
Section 255-120 defines that as habitable and livable. So we're back to that for the egress from the living space over the main residence directly to the extension.
Okay, I think we can close this out. I'm gonna then make a motion in the applicant of Bill Harron, 46 Settlers Lane, Landing Lane, East Hampton, Suffolk, tax map number 300-55-8-20 to close the public hearing and the record.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Thank you, Ann.
I concur.
Concur. State things. Non-issue.
Okay, next up, we have
Oh,
11
between that-
Georgica
or-
Place
perfect.
in Montauk
Can you give this
LLC.
to, Laura? She'll stamp it for you.
11 Georgica
Thank you.
Place, Montauk, Suffolk tax map number 300-19-7-32.2. And that is the size and location is 20,037 square feet at 11 Georgia Place, Montauk Beach Development Corp. Map number 1017, Suffolk tax map number 300-19-7-32.2. The description is to construct an approximately 555.7 square foot swimming pool with fencing and pool equipment, 1,016 square foot patio, walkway, 320 square foot of trellis, 384 square feet of garage, and new driveway on a parcel of land within jurisdiction and setbacks of freshwater wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resource, a special permit pursuant to 255-420 in one area variance of 30 feet is needed, and 255-430 to construct a pool fence 70 feet from the wetland, and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is Zone X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. And council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
We do, pursuant to section 255-9-23 of the Town of East Hampton Code. We do have, we have a certified mailing on March 9th, 2023, and posting on March 9th, 2023, 10 days prior to today's hearing.
Thank you.
That's me.
Okay, go ahead. Ed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My first photo, you see that's has been properly posted. Next. I'm looking to the south here, back out down Georgia Place, down to Gates Road, which then dumps onto Greenwich, which runs parallel to Westlake. Next. I turn in the other direction. This is a cul-de-sac. This is the end of the cul-de-sac. That extension in the center is a driveway to a house further and out of sight. Next. I'm looking at the house, and to the right, there's this proposal to widen the driveway and to go to a garage. All that takes place on this side of the house. It's not in our jurisdiction, but it does. This is an NRSP, and so there are some implications of this work that's to be done. It's moving my way back along the side of the house. This is the area backed into these trees where this garage would go. The garage is not out on the road. It's set back a piece from the proposed garage. Next. Yeah, that's a little out of order, but that's the idea. There's the side of the house, and we can see this is the area garage back to, driveway back to garage. Next. I've turned around the back of the house. I can see a porch, a deck area off there, and a shower stall right here. Next, outside shower. One of the things that will be being discussed here is this trellis, and that's going to go adjacent to that existing deck that sits there. About where this photo is being taken from, about standing in the pool, the proposed pool. Next. Now I'm looking, I'm back towards the north, I guess, and I'm looking across here. To the left is, I can see a little corner of that deck, and this is the area, by and large, I'm looking directly down into what is proposed to be the area for the pool. Next. Now I've gone to the far end, and I'm looking back from what would be the far end of the pool back to the structure. And again, more or less to the left of this, in the shadow of that tree, is where we'd be seeing the pool to be placed. Next. And this is the house to be most closely affected by any work being done here. This is a house that sits to the south of the property. And I'm standing inside the property line, obviously, and it's a good distance away, but it does sit a little higher. Next. Is that it?
That's
it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Brian? How are you, Brian?
Oh, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Brian Matthews, Kirsten Cooley, 241 Panago Road, East Hampton, New York. Here on behalf of Ernie Schaefer, the owner of 11 Georgia Place, who's seeking an NRSP and a variance from this board to install a pool patio, pool equipment, pool fencing, a garage, and a parcel of land within wetlands jurisdiction. So one, I guess, bit of housekeeping that's going to clean up part of this application. So before I get started, spoke to the client today. We reviewed the technical analysis memo. The client's going to agree to remove the variance request to have the pool fence be located 70 feet from that wetland, and move the fence to the 100-foot line from the wetland to the west rather than the 70 feet. That pool fencing will now only require an NRSP. And so while I know the planning department's memorandum had requested it to move it to the line of clearing, we felt that was a little bit too close to the pool where it doesn't really work functionally or aesthetically. And we think moving it to the 100-foot line is a pretty fair compromise and will not in any way adversely impact the wetland, that westerly wetland. And as you can see, from the images and from the aerial images, there's substantial vegetation that buffers the back of this property onto the property further to the west that we think would serve as an adequate protective buffer to the, the actual wetland itself. So, once that variance request is removed, the application itself is pretty benign and pretty straightforward. It's, straight NRSP application. We believe the proposed improvements are all in keeping with the neighborhood and similarly situated lots. Was prepared to be mindful of the neighboring wetlands and within the limits permitted by the code. For instance, the coverage is only increasing to 5,493 feet, where over 10,000 square feet permitted. There's only an additional 900 square feet of additional clearing, and clearing is going to be below what the code permits. And the proposed garage and the pool are both going to be approximately 130 feet from the respective wetlands. The northern wetland for the garage, the westerly wetland for the pool. In fact, as it relates to the garage, if you look at the survey, there's a 128-foot measurement depicted on there from that northern wetland. That actually measures to the pool fence, the proposed pool fence that's on the property line. The garage itself is another 17 feet past that, so it's about 143 feet from that wetland boundary. And it's pushed as close to the house as possible. It's a detached garage, so it's pushed as close to the house as possible while still maintaining the required separation. And as you can also see, I know you can see from a site visit and see from aerials, that lot to the north between our proposed garage and the wetland, and the lot to the north is a fully developed property of the house, lawn, large driveway. So we don't think there's going to be any impact whatsoever with respect to the proposed garage. But to the extent there would, this existence of this improved lot to the north certainly mitigates any impact our client's proposal will have. That's really it. Our client, and to the extent there's other mitigation requests or suggestions in the technical analysis memo, our client is in agreement with all of them. So unless there's any questions for me, I'm happy to turn it over to the planning department or to the board.
The pool fence, and you said you're going to move it to the 100-foot wetland setback line.
Yes.
And all the way around?
Yeah, all the way around.
All the way to the northern property line now, so you're pulling that in also.
Yeah. So we'll get we'll put a new survey in. Obviously, didn't get a chance to do that since we just did that today. But yeah, it would, instead of on that northerly border and southerly border, it wouldn't extend all the way far back. It would go up to basically where that 100-foot line and then cut in.
Any other questions?
No.
No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Morgan? How are you, Morgan?
Good, how are you? Morgan
Good.
Slater for the planning department.
Thanks. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So this property is located on the west side of Georgia Place in Montauk, and it's part of the Montauk Beach Development Subdivision. This area of Montauk contains a freshwater wetland system that has undergone extensive alterations as a result of residential development. The wetlands have been manipulated by being filled, ditched, and culverted, which has resulted in chronic flooding and poor drainage throughout the area. Even though the wetlands are fragmented, they are biologically diverse and provide a habitat for wildlife as well as a buffer to the southern end of Lake Montauk. The closest wetlands to this property are found to the west and the north. The application proposes a pool and patio approximately 120 feet from the western wetland, and the pool fence is proposed to be 70 feet from the wetland, but as we just heard, the client is willing to move it to the 100-foot line from the wetland. If approved, a dry well should be utilized for any pool water that may need to be drained to avoid discharging more water into an already flood-prone area. The pool fence is proposed to be within the uncleared area to the west, which may result in the buffer to the wetland being disturbed, as well as creating the potential for more clearing on a property that is already close to meeting its maximum clearing limits. It does appear possible to move the pool fence within the proposed clearing limits, which the planning department feels would be a more suitable location. A garage and additional driveway are proposed approximately 145 feet from the northern wetland. The planning department suggests that the garage is furnished with gutters and leaders to direct stormwater runoff into catchment basins, so additional runoff into wetlands and the overall area is minimized. The proposed trellis included in the application is proposed approximately 140 feet from the wetland to the west, and it's not likely to introduce any additional significant environmental impacts. Any short-term impacts of this project can be mitigated by the installation of project limiting and sediment control fencing along the proposed clearing limits. And other than that, I can answer any questions you guys have.
Do we know if the gutters and leaders on the house now or go to a dry well system?
Yeah, I would go to
On
catchment.
the garage, but on the house itself?
Oh, on the house itself? I think on the, if I recall the pictures, they do go underground. I can pull them up.
You don't have to pull the pictures up. I mean, I saw that as well when I was on the
Yeah.
site, but I don't know where they can lead to, that's all. Since we're doing it on the garage, I wondered whether or not we have the house already under that.
Mhm.
The garage is within NRSP.
It is just, so kind of the northernmost portion of it is 145 feet. So really not all of it is even within NRSP jurisdiction.
And the driveway is not at all.
It's kind of equal with the garage. So I think it give or take a couple of feet. So that it is possible that that is out of NRSP jurisdiction. It doesn't have a line shown on the survey, but it can be measured with scale easily.
Substantial amount of driveway there is. And you still recommend the pool fence go to the clearing limit?
Just to avoid any disturbance of the buffer, really.
Questions? Thank you. Ryan, you want anything to add, or is there anybody, I've got to go to the public. Is anybody in the public that address this application? Not anybody on the phone?
0 callers. Thank you.
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, just with respect to the pool fence, so we would like to have it at the 100-foot line. Otherwise, a substantial portion of the property, then that's, you can't do anything with it, but it's still your property, and then you're really kind of walled off from it, and it kind of imposes on the pool, just functionally and aesthetically, without any associated impact with that fence. We think moving it to the 100 feet should be acceptable.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Motion?
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Then in the case of 11 Georgica Place, Montauk LLC, 11 Georgica Place, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-19-7-32.2. I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing and record
Okay,
at this time.
Council has a question.
Do you want to leave the survey open for a new, the record open to submit a new survey?
Sure, we can get that, as soon as possible.
2 weeks, 4 weeks?
2 weeks should be fine, just to make that one.
So keep the record for 2 weeks.
Yeah, just the record open.
Thank
for
you.
2 weeks.
Thank you.
Read it again or just?
Yeah.
Okay, then in the case of 11 Georgica Place, Montauk LLC, 11 Georgica Place, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-19-7-32.2. I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing, but to leave the record open for an additional 2 weeks.
Second.
Concur. Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have Janice Canfield at 2 Wooded Oak Lane in East Hampton, Suffolk, tax map number 300-140-1-8. Size and location is 23,635 square foot at 2 Wooded Oak Lane, Montauk Manor, number 3, block 18, lot 16 through 15, map number 265 in East Hampton. The description is to allow an existing basement windows, well, and basement entrance to remain within scenic easement setbacks. Relief sought is 2 variances of 4'8" and 4'3" from 255-1174A of the town code are required to allow the basement entry to remain 5'2" and window well to remain 5'7" from the scenic easement where 10-foot setbacks are required and any other relief necessary. This zoning district is B residence zone, X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. And council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
We do pursuant to the East Hampton Town Code, section 255, section 9-23. We have both postings and notice, postings and certified mailings done on March 9th, 2023.
Thank you. This is my jurisdiction. First photo is the posting. It was properly posted. So basically, I'm taking a look at this is the side, you'll see, I'll have a close-up. You have the house to the left, you have the green lawn, and then where it stops is the easement. So the easement is between the house and Stephen Hand's path. So next, Tyler. So I'm taking a more of a photo of the easement, and again you see Stephen Hand's path in the distance.
It's Hands Creek.
I mean Hands Creek. Sorry. I step out onto Hands Creek and take a photo to the residents there. And is that it, Tyler? Oh, we're missing a photo of the close-up of the stairs. That didn't come through. We'll have to refer to the survey for that. Want to expand that a little bit, Tyler? We have the applicant here.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Will you introduce yourself?
Kevin Canfield, Canfield. I'm the homeowner to Wooded Oak Lane.
You an attorney?
I am, sir.
Okay, proceed.
Good evening, members of the board. We have been very careful to try to stay away from the scenic easement. I know it's very important to the town of East Hampton. Apparently, there was a miscommunication between my builder and the planning board. My builder's right here, Mr. John Sirkin. He can give you the details. But apparently, they were stamped approved as is that you're showing up on the monitor here, sir. And apparently that was in error. We admit mistake is completely our fault. But we would like to cite 255-1174 sub A, which says that, and I'm reading from the statute, all buildings and structures except for the words that are important, except for fences, gates, pillars, and walls, which shall be set back 10 feet. Here we have at a grade egress window and egress basement with a fence on top of it. We're asking respectfully that the variance be granted in this case, first for the miscommunication, second because the town code says that except for fences, we're not strictly in violation of the town code, sir.
Okay. You have any questions, anybody?
Can we just clarify that?
Well,
You're
yeah,
saying
say
only
that
the-
again.
Go
It's a window well and an egress.
Window wells do count as part of the structure, so I think so. But that's
Doesn't sound like one of the exceptions, though.
The building plans that were submitted for a permit, they included the basement entrance and the window well,
Correct, sir.
and they were approved?
Correct, sir.
And they were built as per the permit.
Correct, sir.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Tyler?
Good evening, Tyler Borsak for the planning department.
Tyler, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. So the application in front of the ZBA is requesting two variances in order to allow the existing window well and basement entrance to remain within setbacks of the scenic easement on the property. The property has received 3 building permits since May of 2021. Those permits were issued for the construction of the residence, which is currently on the parcel, as well as a pergola and a swimming pool. The building permit most relevant to the current application is building permit 71047, which was to construct the residence, the attached garage, decking, and the sanitary system. That permit was issued in May 5th of 2021, and it was accompanied by a survey and building plans, which are referenced in the assessment. And I can bring them up on the screen if you'd like to see them. The survey, which was submitted at that time and approved by the building department, did not depict the window well or the basement entry like you see on the survey now. However, the building plans did accurately depict the window well and the basement entry as they were constructed. The discrepancy between the survey and the building plans is likely the reason why the nonconformity was not identified earlier in the process and now requires an as-built variance in order to remain. The applicants constructed the residence as shown on the building plans, and the residence itself, other than the window well and the basement entry, meets all other setback requirements. The scenic easement on the property appears to be the result of the property being located within the urban renewal map system. The Aurora map will sometimes require scenic easements along certain right-of-ways, depending on the area and where the lot is located. This parcel being located along Hands Creek Road, a scenic easement was required along Hands Creek Road in order to presumably preserve the wooded buffer between the right-of-way and the improvements on the parcel. Except for fencing, scenic easements require a 10-foot setback, as was read into the code, read into the record. Since the year 2000, approximately 23 applications have come before the ZBA requesting variances from 255-1174A, with varying determinations for each. For each determination, it appears that the merits of each application were reviewed and approved or denied, depending on how they met the variance standards and the reasoning for each application. With the current application, it does appear that the applicants constructed what was submitted and approved on building plans. However, the submitted survey did not include those structures. That said, the merits of any variance application from scenic easement setbacks are in the impact or the potential impact on the integrity of the scenic easement, since that is what is being protected by the setback requirements. The board may want to consider if there's any mitigation measures which would help to protect the easement in perpetuity and would better meet the variance standards, such as fencing along the easement line in order to delineate the yard space from the easement and prevent any incidental clearing of the easement in the future. If you'd like, I can bring up the original building permit plans if you want to see those, but other than that, I can answer any questions.
One quick question. The area in the bottom right, which is the southeast, it says area to be scenic easement. Is that not a scenic easement now?
I'm not certain if it's gone through yet. It looks like what that is in urban renewal maps, you'll have old paper roads which are to be abandoned.
Right.
And so this looks like it may have already happened or it's going to happen, that they're going to abandon their half of the road into the property. And then that would mean that that section, which is on the road frontage, would then have to become scenic easement like the rest of that road frontage did. That's probably what that's in reference to.
So the problem, I'm sorry. The problem if we were to grant this is that we go from having 10 foot on the side of the house to protect the easement to 5.2 at this nearest point. And therefore, that 5 feet could lead to perhaps over activity into the easement. And right now, as we saw, there was a very straight line between grass and the easement. I assume that that's an accurate assessment of where it is.
It appears to be.
Assuming they've done their proper handwork on that. But I do think that the question becomes, how do we ensure that that extra 5 feet doesn't burgeon on out into the easement? Because that's what the 10 foot is designed to allow for, to keep us out of the easement.
Exactly.
So that would be the major question. If we approve this, and it's a minor ask, I'll admit, but if we approve it, we're asking ourselves, have we done anything to endanger that portion of the easement there in terms of just activity level? It's only 5 feet now. Is there anything we could suggest to do there? Are we looking to do some planting? Are we looking to do anything that might restrict that activity?
Yeah, well, that's what we suggested. Maybe a fence, since fences don't need to meet that 10-foot setback. You could put it on the line. Planting certainly could help as well. I think either would probably get the job done.
Yeah.
It's a question of whether you feel it's necessary or not, I suppose, at the end of the day.
Fence need not be much more than just what the areas that are of concern. It's not a fence. We're talking about the whole easement. We're only talking about a fence in the area.
Right. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be terribly substantial either. It could be a split rail or whatever.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do you have a question?
Eric?
No, I'm thinking about the fence. Yes, if the applicant would agree to that.
Yes, the applicant.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want the applicant up again?
If I want him up, we're going to ask him if he would agree to the fence.
You want to come back up?
Just be a condition of approval.
Question of whether or not there should be a fence along that easement to protect the easement, like a split rail fence or something very simple.
We can certainly do that. As I said in my original remarks, we take great care to stay away from the easement. We realize how important it is. And as you can see from the photos that were taken, we've drawn a very bright line, and we're not going to cross that line.
It's a very narrow lot.
It is. There were many challenges in the building, and I respect this board's opinion in considering this application. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you. Anybody in the public on this would like to address? Matt, any callers?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Thank you. Therefore, a matter of Janice Canfield at 2 Wooded Oak Lane, East Hampton, Suffolk, tax map number 300-140-1-8. I make a motion to close the hearing and the public record.
I'll second it.
Concur.
I concur.
Concur.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to our next hearing, we have 29 Sanger LLC at 29 Sanger Place in Montauk, Suffolk, Mass. Tax map number 300-31-5-4. The size and location is 7,795.32 square feet at 29 Sanger Place, Oceanside in Montauk, lot number 282, map number 2730 in Montauk. The description is to demolish the existing residence and associated structures and to construct a 2,379 square foot, 2-story residence with lower level grade garage, 20 square foot swimming pool, decking, balconies, driveway, and sanitary system within lot line setbacks outside of the town's pyramid regulations, greater than the maximum allowable height and beyond the maximum building coverage allowed. The relief sought is 10 variances are required for this application. Variances of 9.1 and 10.4 feet are required from 255-1110 of the town code to construct a swimming pool decking 10.9 feet and 9.6 feet from the western and eastern lot lines, respectively, where 20-foot setbacks are required. 3 variances of 4.4 feet, approximately 1.2 feet, and approximately 1.4 feet are required from 255-1110 of the town code to construct the swimming pool 15.6 feet, 18.8 feet, and 18.6 feet from the southern rear yard, eastern side yard, and western side lot lines, respectively, where 20-foot setbacks are required. Variances of approximately 2 feet, 3 feet, and 4.5 feet are required from 255-1172D of the town code to construct a residence approximately 2 foot and 3 foot and railing approximately 4.5 feet outside the pyramid line along the eastern and western property lines, respectively. 1 variance of 2 foot 11.5 inches is required from 255-1110 and 255-1172B of the town code to construct a residence at a height of 32-11.5, where 30 feet is a maximum allowable in a B residence zoning district. 1 variance of 21 square feet is required from 255-1110 of the town code to construct the residence with a lot coverage of 1,580 square feet, was where 1,559 square feet is the maximum allowable. The zoning district is B, residence AE flood zone, elevation 10, and the secret class is type 2. And council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
We do. Pursuant to section 255-9-23 of the Town of East Hampton Code, we have postings that were posted to the site on March 11th, 2023. It was reposted again on March 13th, 2023, and then again on March 17th, 2023, all after notice that the sign had been removed. And we also have a certified mailing on March 10th, 2023, which is all 10 days prior to today's hearing.
Thank you. Who's?
This is Mark.
Terry?
Yeah. A lot of photos. There's all different viewpoints, vantage points. So I did catch it posted the second time that the agent put it up. I went over there quickly. By the next day, it was gone with the wind we had, but it did get reposted again after that. You can see it was, I don't know, not the best posting, but anyway, so that is the post, that's the front of the house back there. Next. Now we'll just walked across the street to give you a little wider vantage point of the front of the house. The fencing on the west border of the property line and the nearest neighbor to the east. Next. And to slightly turn and took another shot toward the southwest portion. There's the unimproved lot directly next to the applicant's home. And there's a lot here to show you the different types of houses in this area of Ditch Plains, many small lots, and some, mixed bag of whether they're 1-story and some 2-story homes in this area. Next. Now I'm shooting up to the eastern side of Sanger Place, heading east, and some variety of houses. Next. Now this, I'm standing on the applicant's front, and this is the property is directly across the street from the applicant's home.
Is the one on the right 3 stories, or is that FEMA lifted?
I don't think it's 3 stories. It looks like it's 2, I think. Next. Now I'm looking down the other direction toward Otis Road. There are 2 houses and this unimproved lot prior to the intersection of Otis. But again, you can see different size and different homes in the area. Next. Okay, well, this is shooting again, I think, up Sanger Place. Next, more houses. And again, this is a shot from the applicant's driveway to the house directly to the east. Next. And now another shot toward the lot on the west. And I think we're finally going to walk around the property. Next. Okay, so this is the driveway. I'm going to go to the south. This is on the north side. I'm going to walk to the south and shots there. Next. Down in the back of the house, standing on the western lot line pretty much, and this is the current house and the deck that goes up above. And again, another shot of the nearest neighbor's home in the distance. And you can see how the property does grade up the lawn and the retaining wall that is on the eastern property line there. The applicant. Next. This is another shot from that same vantage point, but shooting a little toward the southeast. Again, difference in the grade and the stone shed that is there and shows on the survey to be removed if this application is approved. Next. And just another shot trying to get a wider vantage point of the area. This is in the area where the pool is proposed to be. Pool and a deck coming off the back of the house. Next. Now I'm standing at the southern lot line, taking a shot back. See the existing house, and the survey shows where that the existing house is gone. And from the new house, again, they're proposing a balcony and the pool. Next. Pipe sticking out of the ground. I'm not sure what that was for. Next. And now on the southeastern corner, and again taking a shot across toward the front, showing the retaining wall again. And I think, is that it? That might be it. Oh, another one of the retaining wall. And, again, neighbor to the east. And next, one more shot of the neighbor to the east. Okay. Next, is that done? No. All right, now I'm in the back of the house, still on the southern lot line there, and again, shooting across to the neighborhood to the west, southwest, basically. Next. And directly to the south, there are homes in front of that on which would be DeForest Road. And next.
That's it.
That's it, finally. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Who are you, Michael?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, council. Michael Selensky, 860 Montauk Highway, Watermill, New York, for the applicant.
Point of clarification, as we look at those photos and just look at the survey, that retaining wall is on this property line.
It's very close to the property line, if not slightly over onto,
Yeah, interesting.
slightly over onto our property line. I don't believe it was built by our property. I believe it was. I'll address
It's
the
the
board.
applicant's wall, right?
I believe it is on on our side of the line, correct?
Okay.
And again, that wall becomes important only because it shows the drastic difference between the east and the west property lines. So the number of variances that are required here, while it looks like a big headline of, hey, we need 10 variances. When you dig a little deeper, it's all of those variances are caused by two things: the drastic change in elevation between the east property line and the west property line, and the fact that we're in a AE flood zone that requires elevation of a newly constructed house. All of the other houses that are also in this flood zone, when they're redeveloped, and this is a area that's being redeveloped, are going to require that they be elevated to meet FEMA flood zone requirements. That being said, since the time that we made the application, we have made some slight modifications that would get rid of some of the required variances here. So we do have an updated survey that allows us to meet the total lot coverage variance. Our request for that lot coverage variance, we would withdraw because we no longer will need it. In addition, the rear yard pool variance, we are now proposing the rear yard pool to be at 20 feet from the property line as opposed to what's on this survey at 18.6. Therefore, getting rid of the need for a rear yard variance. In addition, we're also proposing that the pool side yard variances from both east and west be reduced to 1 foot. We can now meet a 19 foot on either side. So we'd only be requesting a 1 foot variance. Right now, the pool is 10 by 20, a very modest sized pool. And we're asking for that 1 foot relief on the side yards to allow it to remain at 10 by 20. I would like to first address the swimming pool deck variances. We're proposing 2 variances. Our proposal is to have a setback of 10.9 feet on the west side and 9.6 feet on the east side. As the board knows, because a pool deck is attached to the pool, it requires to have the double accessory setback from 10 to 20 feet. The normal accessory setback in this zoning district is 10 feet, but because it touches the pool, it would require a 20-foot setback. And if I could just step to the monitor and show you here, our pool deck, as interpreted by the building inspector, goes all the way back here to this area along the side of the house because it's all connected. And again, that's all caused because we're at an AE flood elevation, which requires lifting the house. So we're above, the first floor is going to be at 14-foot elevation or 16-foot elevation. So we have the decking that's elevated into a pool. It's also elevated here. So this decking, as it goes to the side yard, in order to allow access to the interior of the house, goes down to a 9 point. On top of my head, goes down to a setback of 9.6 feet. So by 0.4 feet, we're missing the accessory setback. Now, according to the building department, that is considered a pool deck. But I would posit to this board that has really nothing to do with being a pool deck. It's not a traditional pool deck that you would normally have, nor does it pose any of the risks that the double setback in the code is set forth for. So we're requesting that, and on the other side, it's 10.9 feet. But if I can show you where the 10.9 feet is measured to, the 10.9 feet is measured to the
shed is
return here, where the stairs are coming up, and it really is a more or less the deck is actually at 15 feet. This is actually the landing for the stairs. But in order to be encompassing and ask for the proper relief, we've included the measurement, the 10.9, which is the top of the landing, as opposed to where the real deck is, which is over another 3 feet 6 inches. Does anyone have any questions as it relates to the pool or the pool decking before I move on to the other portions?
Well, you said you had a new survey. Do you have that for us?
I do. I believe it was submitted. It was submitted to the board a long time ago, back in July, I thought.
The survey that I'm looking at.
We had July 7th,
July 1st,
21.
2021.
21.
I have a July 2nd, 2022. May I approach?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
We have several.
Yeah, July, last revised July 1st.
Yeah, that's the one I want.
That's July
I have a
2nd.
July 2nd.
No, I don't have that one.
Okay, I can
So-
submit it from the board. I didn't personally submit it, but I can't submit it
Okay.
if the board needs it.
Has it been submitted before this?
I don't know. I did not do the submission here.
Okay.
Or that, at least that last submission. So I can submit after we discuss.
So right now, the variances, just sum up before you go to the next segment, like you ask questions, to sum up the variances you're eliminating.
The
Or reducing.
rear yard pool is no longer needed at all. The side yard pool has been reduced
To
from
1 foot.
To 1 foot.
it's reduced to 1 foot on either side. We need 1 foot on each side. And then the pool decking is as it was originally proposed, 9.6 to 20 feet and 10.9 to 20 feet.
And you remove lot coverage.
Lot coverage.
And
yeah.
lot coverage is
Right.
removed as well. We meet lot coverage. There were some eaves and overhangs.
So
That were,
that's where I was going. I thought you
Yes.
mentioned lot coverage. I want to know how you did that.
yes,
Okay.
there were eaves and there were things that were mistakenly included in lot coverage that are specifically exempted pursuant to the definition. Does anyone have any other questions about the pool? Okay.
It's going to be an elevated pool?
It's elevated to reach the deck. So it's a zero edge at the rear facing yard.
So you're not going to be cutting into that hill that's on the east side.
We do, it does slightly cut into that hill. If you see the elevation lines, that elevation line's in that corner. It does slightly cut into that hill, but not completely, no.
So one of the things, the house is going to be at 16, elevation 16, first floor.
Yes.
That's where you have to go for FEMA.
Existing elevation of first floor is what?
About 9.8, I think it's in the corner.
Oh, 9.8, 9.7. Yeah.
9.7, yeah. So it's going to come up about 6 feet, plus or minus some inches. And this deck then is going to be set, Member Berger asked about it being an elevated pool. The deck is going to be something in the 15-foot range? Is
Yeah,
that it?
it's one step down to the deck.
So it's going to be 15.6 or something
Correct.
like that. And that's going to be the level at which the pool, you're talking about the negative edges are going to work at that level.
Yes, it's going to go to the pool, and then there's a negative edge down.
Okay.
And the pool is 8 feet. It's proposed at 8 feet deep at its deepest point.
Okay.
Okay, so if I move on from the pool, if I could discuss the pyramid variances and the height variance. And again, these two are, as I said before, are directly related to both the change in elevation from the east and west property lines and the FEMA flood zone. We're only proposing a less than 2,500 square foot house here. So we're talking about a very modest house. We are asking for 2 stories, and there's plenty of 2-story residences in this neighborhood. The total square footage of the total square footage that we're looking at is, I believe, 24 and change, I believe, 2379 square footage. So again, a very modest size house. The reason why we're asking for the pyramid relief here is because of that change in elevation between the one property line and the other, and exactly the same for the height. If we measured the height from the eastern property line, we conform. It's only because there's a difference and it's measured from the lowest point, the 9.6 elevation on the western property line, that we are requesting the 2 feet 11 inches in height to make it, to reach the peak.
My question to you is, Architecture 101, designs within zoning and contours. So, I mean, there's been many applications or architecture or houses that have been designed to fit into the contour of the property without piercing the height or pyramid. So I'm wondering, what is the nexus for other than that?
It's a contours of the property. I mean, so the zoning code, when the zoning code was put into place and this max height was established, there was no FEMA flood elevation.
Right, but there are houses that are built into bluffs, right? And that house has to conform while going all the way down the line. They're not asking for a height variance.
But those bluffs are those bluffs. The difference is not usually side to side. It's usually front to back. On most bluff properties, and here it's because it's side to side. You go from having an increased elevation where on the eastern side of the property to a lower elevation on the western side of the property. And when you measure from the western side of the property, if you average them together, we would comply. If we are slightly, in order to keep the roof pitch, the rafters on the eastern side intrude into sky plane. And maybe we could go back and if the board wanted us to see if there's a way to sharpen the pencil to make that work, but either using a different material or something like that. But on the eastern side, where we have the balcony railing that sticks in, which I would suggest was never the intention of Skyplane, was to deal with a balcony railing. It was to deal with massing. There's really no massing from a balcony railing. And then you have a slight intrusion, again, what amounts to just the rafter on that part. Right now, our ceiling heights are at 8 feet on the second floor and 8'6" on the first floor. So it's not like we've come to the board with 12-foot tall ceilings and begging you for relief from height. It's a very modestly designed house in order to very much fit within the contours of the neighborhood and the contours of the lot. It's just because of the difference between the two, we're asking for this very minimal relief as it relates to both the pyramid and to the height of, we're talking about 2 feet, 11 3/4 inches from a neighboring property next door. And if you go back to the pictures that member Berger took in relating to the house that's directly to the east of this property, you can see that property is substantially taller. And even when we bring our house and build this house, that house is still going to be, we're going to be well within keeping with that that trend in the neighborhood. And any house that's eventually built on the property to the west on that vacant property, again, is going to have this very similar issues. It's a constrained lot. It's going to be in the FEMA flood zone. It's going to have to be elevated, and it's probably going to need, relief from this board in order to meet those very real goals and those very important goals that FEMA is to, prevent that flooding in the lower level and get people's livelihoods and, all living and protected things above the floodplain.
You said that it's a very reasonable request for a 2,376 square foot house, but you're on an 8,000 square foot parcel. You're not on an acre, and so relatively, it may not be a reasonable request because you've got a very constrained lot, and you're looking to put a house on it and what kind of house fits on this lot comfortably and what fits there. What are we looking at? So we have a couple of pyramid, we have a height issue. But also we're talking about a 2,300 square foot plus house in an area where that's a larger house than some. And on a lot that constrains you in a way that it may not be possible to build that house. That's one of the things we have to look at in these, when we look at these very small lots. What is possible to build there that fits in the character of the neighborhood and also works? As was mentioned by the chair, many times architecturally we have no choice but the design around the constrictions that we inherit. And you inherit when you purchase this lot are the constrictions that are pretty obvious. They have to do in this case with pyramid and with setbacks. You've addressed the setbacks comfortably in some ways and talked about how you can restrict them. But the fact is this is a fairly massive structure and for the site. And we ask ourselves, is it possible that a smaller house would be less of a problem on that site? That's a question we have to ask ourselves when we look at an application like this.
And I would posit that the smaller the house is, you're going to require to, we're in, it's going to be a two-story house. Many of the other houses in the neighborhood are 2 stories. And we can provide, if the board would find it instructive, we can provide an analysis of the remaining houses in the neighborhood to show both their square footages and the number of stories they're at. We definitely could provide that, to the board if the board would find that illustrative to determine the character of the neighborhood. But to say 2,300 square foot houses, it's going to be somehow too large, I think is 16, a 2-story house. I think the minimum size in the town of East Hampton, correct me if I'm wrong, I think is 1,400 square feet. So we're not even 2 times the minimum sized house in the town of East Hampton required by the code.
But this area is ditch plains where there are a lot of non-conforming lots. Your lot is non-conforming completely for the width for the B-type zoning, residence zoning. The current house is 864 square feet. So the 2,379 is a huge increase in the size of this property.
It is, but we're entitled to the total gross floor area we would be entitled to pursuant to the code is well north of that. We're well under the total gross floor. Actually, we're actually exactly on the gross floor area. So we're meeting.
And as it does state in the TAM, if you're doing a complete redevelopment, we're looking for the maximum conformity you could have on a property, given these constraints and non-conformity.
But this is true. This is true that you're looking for the maximum conformity. But when you have a constrained lot, you have to go through the five factors to judge whether it is. And I would posit to the board that the size of the house that we're proposing to build, is within that. If we were to shrink the size of the house, somewhat we still have the issue of being elevated because of FEMA. And that's, if we did not have the FEMA issue, we could easily fit within the sky plane. And as it is, we're only minimally outside of the sky plane as it is. And in fact, I think that the railing, even considering the railing, is not worth considering, because we're talking about something that for all intents and purposes could be glass. And obviously you have to look behind what the code says and why the code was written. The pyramid code was written to prevent massing on your neighbor's property. And I would posit to the board that a railing that's either see-through or spindled doesn't provide a massing issue on your neighbor's property. Mm-hmm. Similarly, I would say that having the eaves of the rafters, which is basically, if you look at the pyramid diagram, it basically on both sides, we're talking about the rafters of the house are within the pyramid area. It's very small intrusions.
I don't know. You talk about the code, and then the code, because of the constraints of the property, this property is eligible for the four-fifths rule. Am I saying that right? Of reduced setbacks. So the town took into account certain conditions of constraint when they made these codes, and this one is a serious, it's a big nonconformity. And it's still a big ask and a lot of these
It's a
variances.
big, what is if I just clarify the members, what's a big nonconformity?
The lot size width, the width of the lot size is a nonconformity itself.
But that's not
And
changing.
you're maxing it out to what it would be in a regular B zone zoning where the lot size is a minimum of 20,000.
But we're entitled to do that. That's what we're entitled to under the code. The reason and none of that square footage is resulting in the height and or the pyramid. It's because we're elevated for FEMA, and it's because one side of the property is at 9'6" and the other side of the property is at 14.5. It's that difference in 5 foot height that requires us to need a height variance, because the way the code is written is you take the height from the side yard periodic side yard setbacks on the side lot line. And here, because it's at 9'6" on the one side, it causes the height to jump up. Whereas if you measured from the same exact spot on the other side or average the two, we wouldn't need any relief.
There's FEMA, but there is no, we're not in NRSP.
Right.
That's odd for us to hear. There's not many that we get like that, right? Because
it's unique.
When you consider FEMA, you're saying, well, we must be in NRSP, but this lot does not.
We're not, and that's why you only apply the 5-part test. You don't apply the standards of the NRSP jurisdiction, which I would say are heightened from what you would apply for the normal variance. Your normal variance test is strictly the 5-part test. You don't have to rely upon all of those other elements of the NRSP, which are, more restrictive of the property. Here, is there undesirable change that will produce in the character of the neighborhood? No, there are other 2-story houses here. The house directly next door will still be just as tall as this house is. The house that will eventually be built on the empty lot next door will have the same constraints, that it will be elevated. It's a constrained lot too because of its width and size. They will be in front of this board again, applying the 5-part test. The second of the 5-part test, the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue versus an area variance. So here, when we're talking about height, we're at 8'6". We're 8'6" ceilings on the first floor and 8-foot ceilings on the second floor. Those are reasonable in today's day and age. Those are, we didn't come in with a 10-foot height ceiling or 12-foot height ceiling. We came in with 8-foot ceilings, an 8'6" ceiling. And we come in with a traditionally peaked roof as opposed to the very limits of pitch on a roof. We haven't changed the architecture to make the house unattractive in order to chase a very minimal change in the variance we're requesting, because the variances we're requesting are so minor when it comes to the height and pyramid. Is the requested area variance substantial? I would posit the board, these are not substantial variances. There may be a large number of them, but each when looked at on their own is very minimal. The fourth of the 5-part test is the proposed variance will have an adverse impact on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. Again, there's other pools in the neighborhood. There's plenty of other 2-story houses in the neighborhood. There's the house directly next door, which is, again, looms over this house as it currently sits, up there on top of that retaining wall. We're not going to be out of sorts. Eventually, what will be built next door on the undeveloped lot will look very similar to this property when we're redeveloped. So we fit within those things. And 5 is the alleged difficulty self-created. We didn't self-create this. This is strictly due to the topography of the lot, and it's also because of FEMA flood zones, which again are important, and they do serve a purpose. As much as we can all probably laugh that the maximum FEMA payout probably doesn't pay for the lawn furniture on a lot of places that are requiring it to do it, but it does protect other people and property. So it's important. And when you have those important elements, minor variance relief from the code, which again, you have to remember the code is a cookie cutter for the entire town. And your job as the board, and the reason why the ZBAs exist under state law is because they know that, the state lawmakers know, our lawmakers here and sit in this, board, who I had the pleasure and, maybe sometimes less than pleasure of sitting with occasionally. The reason why you have those things is because this board can grant variances when they look at the individual lot, they apply these 5-factor tests and determine whether or not it meets those.
I want to try to move this on a little bit,
Sure.
but we have at last count, we have 18 public comment opposition letters in the file.
Okay.
Can you address to possible reasoning why this has caused such a large response?
No, I would never posit to the board what other people are thinking. I've sat with this, I've sat in that chair right there with council sitting far too long to know what other people are thinking. But what I would do is I will address all of those letters in writing to the board and in writing to the board, because I think that's the proper way to address them.
Any questions?
No, we're good, Brian.
No, ready for Tyler?
I mean, Tyler.
We'll go to planning.
Thank you. No, I'm done.
Evening again, Tyler Borsak for the Planning Department. So just to review, the project before the board is to demolish the existing residence and associated structures and construct a new 2,379 square foot two-story residence with swimming pool, decking, lower level garage, second story balconies, driveway, and sanitary system. The project requires several dimensional variances from the town code, including proposed nonconformities to pyramid, double side yard setbacks for swimming pools, and the maximum height. 2 of the others apparently have been withdrawn or removed. The proposed project represents an aggressive redevelopment of a small non-conforming property in Dish Plains, an area surrounded by other similarly small non-conforming properties. The parcel is comprised of only 7,795 square feet, where 20,000 square foot is the minimum required under modern zoning. The applicants are proposing to demolish the existing modest residence and construct a new residence, which is exactly the maximum allowable for the size of the property. I think considering 2,379 square foot residence on a less than 8,000 square foot property, modest is a bit of a stretch. I would not consider that to be a modest sized residence for that size lot. Just to clarify something, the minimum gross floor area for any residence in town is 600 square feet. The ZBA granted that on the Clark property down in Amagansett, which is a 600 square foot house. Just because it was brought up. Constructing such a large residence on such a small lot, along with a swimming pool and FEMA first floor elevation requirements, has created the need to request several variances without any significant aspects of the parcel that make it unique, especially in the Dish Plains area. The level of development proposed in this project gives the impression of simply maximizing the building on the property beyond the limits of the zoning code. The size of the proposed residence, coupled with the need to meet a 16-foot first floor elevation from FEMA, and the size and the width of the parcel creates several nonconformities that the board should examine closely. Given that Ditch Plains' area is made up of similar properties, the variance approval on this one has the potential to create precedent for others in the neighborhood. There should be sound reasoning as to how any given application meets the variance standards for these small non-conforming lots. So the current application requires several pyramid variances. The roof line of a residence requires variances of 2 feet and 3 feet from eastern and western lot lines. And the balcony railing is proposed to be 4.5 feet outside of pyramid along the western lot line. The applicant is also requesting a total height variance of 32 feet, 11.5 inches to construct or a variance of 2 feet, 11.5 inches to construct the residence to a maximum height of 32 feet, 11.5 inches, instead of the 30 feet required in the B residence zoning district. The coverage variance was removed. And as far as the side yard setbacks for the pool decking, even excluding some of those walkways on the side, it still requires side yard setback variances. Ultimately, this property may not be able to have both a large house and a swimming pool on it. It may be reduce the size of the house in order to better meet zoning, and then you can also fit a swimming pool in there, or remove the swimming pool and change the design of the house, again, to better meet zoning. It may not be appropriate, given the size of the lot, to have both, and again, maximize the development on the property. Allowing the maximum allowable GFA, along with the variance requests for pyramid and height, all give the impression of maximizing the size of the residence on a small parcel. Again, which may not be appropriate, especially in an area with similar parcels. The board should be comfortable with this level of development on all parcels in ditch plains if this application is approved, as it would have set a precedent for other similar properties to request similar variances. The use of a residence could easily be achieved without the need for any or reduced dimensional variances on this parcel, as has been done in many similar surrounding parcels. The board should discuss the impact of the variances may have on the neighborhood, both through direct impacts of the structure on properties and neighbors, and the long-term indirect impacts of setting a precedent for the neighborhood, which could affect development of properties in the future. In a redevelopment, the zoning board often looks to reduce or eliminate variances, not create new variances where none existed prior. Sound reasoning needs to be established as to why the applicant is unable to construct a residence in a conforming location on this property. Other than that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Tyler?
Okay. I'm good.
You make a, well, actually, you make a statement that there are other, varieties of houses, but you have a comment about the pool? The statement was made that there are a number of pools in the area. I didn't really see
I mean, I
that.
could pull up GIS if you want to look at the aerial of the neighborhood and see, I don't think they're uncommon, but I can't think off the top of my head how many there might be.
All right.
Is the rest of this neighborhood, are they extremely different from what's being requested here? The
As far as
sizes
the
of the
existing
houses? And,
improvements, there haven't been too many.
I mean, is this comparable to what already exists
I
there?
can't think of too many applications that had this number of variances, at least in recent history.
But we got rid of a few tonight. We got rid of the,
And
so
I
we're
think
asking for some.
some of them are forced by
So-
FEMA.
I think Denise is asking the size of the house.
Yeah, like I'm asking, in the neighborhood itself, how does this compare? I mean, are houses in this vicinity the same size?
The area
with
is going
pools?
under a redevelopment, so a lot of those small existing homes are being redeveloped into larger residences.
Correct.
The board certainly hasn't had any GFA variances that I can remember, at least that they've granted in the area, but this isn't requesting that. This is just at the maximum.
Mhm.
So it's hard to really say what exact numbers are, and their lot sizes too. I mean, obviously that GFA number can fluctuate depending on if it's a larger or smaller lot.
Right. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go to the public now, and just want to make a statement that if you're here to speak, you have 3 minutes. I also want you to know that we have 18 letters in our file. We've read them, so please keep that in mind that we have read them. So just if you can address and keep it direct. First.
Thank you for the opportunity to hear my comments.
Your name and
My
address.
name is Stephen Angeli. I'm here with my wife Liz. We own the property at 25 Sanger, just next door and immediately to the east of the subject property. So
You raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
We are both here to oppose any and all of the variances that are before you here tonight. I'm not going to reiterate all of the large size of the proposed structure or all of the variances, since you've already heard that several times. I would like to say, however, that we are the direct neighbors to them, and we feel that these setbacks and these lot coverage requirements, height restrictions are all there for a good reason. This application shows total disregard for us and our right to enjoy our property and to maintain our property value. For example, if this thoughtless overdevelopment is allowed, our views will be obstructed more than if a fully conforming structure is built. Our privacy would be compromised for much the same reasons. The noise that would come from a non-conforming swimming pool is a major concern. Also, I'd like to mention traffic. A larger house will surely mean more guests, and in summertime, there's no street parking on Sanger Place or anywhere in Ditch Plains. So where are those cars going to be parked? They would have to be parked on the lot, which we've all agreed is a very small lot. Our property values will be negatively affected. Potential buyers may be deterred from purchasing our property because of the close proximity of this oversized home and its negative impact on the neighborhood's aesthetic. The harm to us will be immediate and cannot be outweighed by the applicant's gains. The applicant has not met the criteria for relief as stated in the town code that addresses such matters. For these reasons and for the reasons expressed in the letter from the Ditch Plains Association, we vehemently oppose any and all variances on this property. The applicant should be required to submit plans for conforming structure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would also like to add, in terms of the pyramid law, the gentleman commented on the difference between the east and west side of the property in terms of elevation. We showed the plans to a professional who works in and around East Hampton, and he indicates that the pyramid was applied incorrectly on the plans. They're using the eastern retaining wall, which is at 13 feet elevation, whereas the natural elevation of the property is about 10 feet. So there's about a 3-foot difference, and that could account for the extra 3 feet that they're requiring there. So I think that they are looking for too much height that wouldn't be justified. And also the narrowness of this lot doesn't even allow them to use their garage, because their garage is on the west elevation. It's only 14 feet from the property line. And it would be hard to put a car in there with even with 3-point turns. So
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Anybody else? Hi. Your name and address?
Christine Gallen, 24 Sanger, please.
Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank
I
you.
do. I'm not going to repeat my whole letter where I quoted Tyler extensively. Just a couple of things that were brought up earlier by Michael. 2379 square feet is not modest by most people's standards. So I don't know how big your house is, but especially for that piece of land. And you're talking about the height and the pyramid because of the FEMA restrictions, and that, you know, it's sort of like, well, we can't do anything about that, but you could. You don't need to make a 2-story house. I'm sorry, but you don't need to make quite that large a house. And I think there's one pool in like all of the neighborhood. It's not common to have a pool. We live right by one of the best beaches in the world. You don't need a pool. So either you make the house smaller or you make the pool smaller. You can't have everything. And when you're saying it's not a big ask, you're asking for what you're entitled to. You're asking for the maximum that you're entitled to, which is like, you know, I'm going to get the big gulp because it's the biggest soda that they have. You don't have to get it just because you're allowed to get it. I think that it would be detrimental to the neighborhood. There are structures of all different sizes on our block. Some are small cottages, some are a couple of stories, but they have different size lots and they're not shaped the same way. So I just think this is really not in keeping with the character of the neighborhood.
Thank you. Next. How are you?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Angelo. I'm ready to be sworn in.
Where do you reside?
My family resides at 53 DeForest Road, which is around the corner from Sanger Place.
Okay. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
On behalf of my family, we oppose the variances to the extent they allow the construction of such a large property, a large house on such a small piece of property. Ditch Plains is becoming the most increasingly developed area in Montauk. And you can see, you drive down DeForest Road, drive down Ditch Plains Road, you see redevelopment happening. And eventually we're going to end up like Miami Beach with one house right next to another. Even if they may be legally constructed or have variances, you're going to have one house after another after another. So I think the size of the property means that we need to have a smaller house there. Right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good. My name is Doug Green, 32 Sanger.
Okay, do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
All right. So I'll try not to repeat what's been mentioned already by a few others here. But some of the things that came to mind when I talked with this about my family is that we believe that the applicant knew what they were purchasing when they bought the property in terms of the existing structure, the lot, the building and zoning codes, and the surrounding uses. And so from a simple perspective, they knew what they were getting into, right? It's a smaller lot in the conforming area. And it would seem to us that now they're looking for the approval of this committee in order to enrich their investment. And I say that because a lot of the remarks I'm hearing are about maximizing what they're entitled to. And so to change the rules partway through the game, when you bought the property knowing what the rules were originally, just doesn't seem like the right approach to me. And so one of the big concerns that I have and my family has is that this decision is probably more important than this project in isolation, right? We believe this sets a precedence and it'll elicit a certain behavior for developers and builders and investors who are coming into East Hampton and Montauk and doing these projects. And so you could see more of these in the coming years, and it could totally reshape, or has the potential to reshape, what we know is Montauk and Ditch Plains. The proposal includes a number of variances which we find to be a little bit excessive, and it's my basic understanding, I'm not an expert, is that a variance would require some sort of hardship, right? And given what I brought up about maximizing what they're entitled to, and when I looked through the application, and there's a question in here about, what reason led you to request this variance other than complying with the town code, it's blank. So I feel like I don't have enough information about what the hardship really is, and why there isn't a reason that this couldn't be done within the building and zoning code, within the zoning code essentially. And so that leaves me a little concerning. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up is just to give you a flavor of the speed and things that are going on in that neighborhood and within a block of that. There's two recent projects that I want to cite and describe to you so you can understand what's being developed, because a few people have talked about the redevelopment and what that's looking like. So there's one, I think it's 40 DeForest, which is right on the ocean, the parking lot where the old East Deck used to be. And I would believe that that's something that had to be approved, vetted, and reviewed either by this committee or another one before it was built. However, if you go and look at the progress of that today, many people, myself and others in the neighborhood, find that to be something that doesn't fit in the surrounding area, right? And it's non-standard in our opinion. So it doesn't meet the character. And then the other thing is this, there's this lot across the street at 36 Sanger, which for a number of years was undeveloped. And it's actually a lot that from 2015, there was a resolution, and I have the document here, was intended to be protected with a number of other lots for groundwater and wildlife and native plant species. And without any other notification or any other review or of the, our family or any others. That lot was then sold and developed. And so things are moving really quickly. And I feel like that's why the community feels like, there's a lot of activity around this, is that we just want to be in the know a little bit more. And we believe that 29 Sanger has all the markings of a really big, important decision, and we just want to be able to get it right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
No, next, anybody else?
Hi, I'm Peg Fruin from Hampton Design. I don't live in the neighborhood any longer. I used to live at 33 Hoppin. I did 35 Hoppin.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, you live where?
I used to live at 33 Hoppin, and that's in Ditch Plains,
Do you swear, where do you reside now?
East Quogue.
East Quogue.
I'm
Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Because of the neighborhood, and as you're well aware of, is that I've worked on many houses in this neighborhood for 35 Hoppin. There's also jobs I've done on Sanger, and we've not been able to have any of the things that these people are requesting. You're setting a precedent. We don't want you to change the precedent. You have zoning in place on purpose. You need to work on keeping it that way. Otherwise, everybody's going to come in and say, oh, that guy got it. Why shouldn't we change it? You have a new house that just went up on Hoppin now. It's must be 37 or 38. They are up on stilts, and it's not a 2,300 square foot house. I can promise you that. So I think that the board needs to be very thoughtful about the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Callers?
Yeah, there's somebody else coming up.
My name is George Green, and it's 32 Sanger Place.
Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, absolutely.
Thank you.
So as one of your members was asking about the character of the neighborhood Ditch Plains, like Sanger Place is one block back from the forest and the beginning of the beach area in Ditch. And it's probably only maybe 275 yards long from Otis to Prentice. And on all those houses on that street, except for the four corner houses, two at Otis and two at Prentice, I don't think there's any 2,400 square foot houses on that block, let alone there is no swimming pools. And individually, it's like, a 1 foot variance for a swimming pool. Okay, I can understand that. But individually, they don't sound like a big ask, but collectively, they're major. And in view of some of the things that have gone on recently in the neighborhood, as my son mentioned about 40 DeForest, it appears to me that we're kind of heading in the wrong direction in terms of the feeling of Montauk. Like, I stand in this building that is like resurrected from years gone by because it has character and because people appreciate the past. And when I got my mortgage out here, I paid a tax so that the Conic East End tax, so that other developers and other farmers don't sell their land and we don't have condos and unruly development throughout the county. So I'm just in front of you to tell you that it doesn't fit in with the character at all. There are some bigger houses in Ditch, but they're further back, closer to Route 27. They're not up close to the water. And he is going to affect my view for sure if he gets that house that high, and then I don't have the enjoyment of my property. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? No, Matt, is there anybody on the phone?
We do have one caller holding.
Okay, want to let him in?
Last four digits, 4221. You're live.
Hello, caller.
Good evening, Chairman Deline. My name is Jane Mearing. I live at 32 Ocean Lane.
Hi, Jane, do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir, I do. I submitted a letter today about why I am speaking on this application, even though I do not live in Ditch Plains. I clearly live in Amagansett. But I was also compelled to speak because of many things the applicant said tonight. So I'm going to roll through some points very quickly. Some of these are not in the letter. But the first thing that is in the letter, but was really not discussed at all this evening, I'm not a natural resources expert, but I do believe, based on the topography, the depressions, the vegetation, that wetlands may likely exist on that undeveloped parcel just to the west. I don't know when it was inspected by natural resources in the town, but I would like to have that reassessed and to really understand what is going on in that property, because that would obviously put this project into jurisdiction and perhaps even wetland variances. Number two, the applicant keeps talking about what they are entitled to. Though any of us are allowed to seek relief from this board, none of us are entitled to variances, especially when we try and max everything out. Number three, 2,400 square feet house, as others have said, but I must say it again, is it not a moderate, very moderate house? This is a threefold expansion of a house that has served residents well for 6 decades. The attorney made an absolutely, this is number four, the attorney made an absolutely false statement that 1,400 square feet is the minimum house size in East Hampton. I live in an 1,100 square foot house. I think there are hundreds of houses remaining in this town that are less than 1,400 square feet, and a fair amount that are under 1,000. Number five, the lot is 61% undersized to the B residence zone, which I believe must be taken into account to the scope and scale of what is proposed and the overall density in the neighborhood. Number six, the attorney this evening characterized our venerable town code as some sort of arbitrary, quote, cookie cutter thing, which I found a bit disrespectful. Number six, the fifth of the 5-point test the applicant's attorney referred to the issue of self-created. This is, period, full stop, a self-created issue. The applicant just bought the house recently. They knew what they're buying. I think they might have other properties in the neighborhood. This is an aggressive maxing out. There is no hardship here. There are a lot of other ways to achieve enjoyment and good use of the property with houses significantly smaller. And seven, all in this application demonstrates a rather poor and sad understanding of the character of Ditch Plains, and even more important, a lack of understanding and comportment with the climactic pressures and coastal resiliency priorities this town has declared and has adopted into its comprehensive plan. So I appreciate your allowing me to speak this evening and considering my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, Matt?
Zero additional callers. Thank you.
One more member here. One more. Come on.
Hi, Lisbeth Angeli at 25 Sanger. I'll make it brief.
Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I'm asking just one, I guess I have one big request, not an ask. Could the board further help me understand the meaning of the word hardship?
I'm
When an
not sure
applicant
we're
makes-
here.
In terms of building, property, and zoning, if somebody says they're experiencing hardship, what does that really mean?
Well, I'm not sure that's in the purview for us
Okay,
to
that's what I
answer.
wanted to
So
know.
we're here to address this application
Because there's so many
itself.
references to the word hardship, and I thought, well, if they have a hardship, maybe it should be granted. But then I thought, I don't know what a hardship is in terms of zoning. So I don't know how to find out either.
Right.
But can we, Tyler, find out about the wetlands?
We know
You said
that.
there was a more.
He
Okay,
can
thank
address
you. That was.
Thank you. Michael, anything else? Oh, we have one more. Sorry.
2.5 minutes.
Yeah, they got 30 seconds.
Yes, 30, yep.
I swear. The only thing that hasn't been talked about is I think this is a 4-bedroom house, is it not?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So does that change the size of the septic system?
The septic system is designed for the size of the house.
And does that need a variance?
No.
So.
Just a new one.
So he's going to be parking cars on top of that septic, the drainage field. That's the only place they can get off-street parking and not in the garage. Because the drainage field is directly in front. He just laid new stone and is directly in front of the house. So he's going to be parking cars on the.
That's all design parameters and code, right?
I'm just saying, I think there's a potential for an adverse environmental effect related to the amount of sewage for a 4-bedroom house on a non-conforming lot. That's my only point.
Thank you.
I just can address that.
Excuse me?
Lack of wetlands, Tyler.
Yeah, we're going to keep the record open anyway.
Yeah, does the board have additional?
I don't know, unless you have an additional comment. We don't have any additional unless you have something.
Then what I would ask is I'd ask that it be left open for all purposes and we put it on for a 4-week date. In hearing some of the concerns, I'd like to get with the architect and the homeowner and see if there's a way to possibly address some of the concerns. So if we could have a 4-week date to come back, we can maybe have additional plans that could reduce additional.
Are you requesting what the record to be on the hearing as well?
The hearing as well. I think there's enough public concern, obviously, that what I don't want to do, despite being called disingenuous before, I think, what I don't want to do is submit new plans and then have the public not have the ability to, speak to them.
So you're requesting a continuation?
Continuation, if I could. I think I don't know what your 2 meetings from now is.
Well, we have a backlog. I mean, I don't know what our next available date is, but we have a year of backlog, I understand, but.
It doesn't need to be renoticed because it's still open.
If we schedule tonight.
What's that?
If we schedule the date tonight, it doesn't have to be.
Right. So April 18th, is that the?
I don't know.
Is that
That's a
okay,
decision.
Laura?
You said that's the soonest it could be. You didn't say that's when it will be.
Right.
Well, that's as soon as.
Well,
it can be.
if we agree to a continuation.
Right.
and
And
I
what's
think it
the one
does-
after April 18th? Yeah, so maybe if we could have April 25th, that might give us additional time. If that's okay. With the board.
I think relative to the public comments, it might be good for this board to continue the
I'm willing
hearing.
to do it. I think it's a good idea.
I think it's a good
actually.
idea.
I know we don't often do that, but I think in this case, there's a unique circumstance to do that. So I think, but I'm going to promise to keep it shorter on it, to keep it
Absolutely.
direct. Keep it
Yes.
direct. We don't want to hear a whole new case.
No, it's fine.
Keep it direct.
So
to-
any
keep it
case that we
direct to
any
the
case that we bring
changes.
before the board would be a much reduced case, and obviously
Yeah.
we'll submit the
To the planning
things in
department,
advance.
and we'll have their comments.
And submit,
sort of thing.
okay, so you already have a new survey and you may have another one.
Yep.
Um,
I would suggest the survey probably will change again. Yeah.
And I'd like a document stating whatever you may add to other variance
Yeah,
reductions.
if you can summarize.
Summarize it in a
document
letter.
what
This
it
is what it was. This is what it is now.
Absolutely.
And what else was I gonna say? There was something else.
Okay, is that okay, Laura? You got the 25th?
So April 25th it is?
April 25th.
25th, yeah. Oh, and I don't know, do we want Tyler to talk about the non-need for the NRSP now? Or-
Do you have an opinion? You have
I could discuss
No,
it.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I asked him that.
Tyler Borsak for the planning department again. So this property was flagged back in 2016. We're not flagged, it was inspected in 2016. And we found no wetlands at that point in time. They did note the presence of phragmites on the property, which is often, it can be used as an indicator of wetlands, but isn't in and of itself necessitate that something is wetlands. At that point in time, I had looked at the notes on the field notes. And it is a low area. It is wet-ish, but it's not, we haven't considered it to be wetlands at this point in time. There's not enough vegetation there to indicate that it is a wetland. That could change in the future. It was given, I think, 7 years, so it is coming up on it needing a new inspection in the near future. But for now, it's still good as far as our inspection is considered not being a wetland.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, can we have a motion?
Okay, so
The
I make a
25th.
motion
Keep the hearing open and
in
record
the
open.
matter of 29 Sanger Place, 29 Sanger LLC at 29 Sanger Place in Montauk, tax map 300-031-05-4. Make a motion to continue this hearing on April 25th. And leave the, well, the record's open for all purposes then, until that time.
Great.
Second.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Concur.
Good night,
Thank you,
Mike.
Michael. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
All right, with that, we'll go into our administrative work session, and we have an administrative application, and that's Christopher Watson at 180 Old Montauk Highway in Montauk. Tax map number 300-87-3-23, and that's to construct a 594 square foot second floor addition, legalize a 1,374 square foot pool patio, and legalize 423 square feet of constructed stairs on a parcel of land containing a coastal bluff. Tyler?
Okay, so I'm covering this one for Morgan. This is on Old Montauk Highway, so we take setbacks from the base of the bluff rather than the bluff crest because of where the bluff crest is on a lot of these properties. So it's a 125-foot setback from the base of the bluff, and thankfully she colorized it nicely. Here's your base of bluff. Here's your bluff, toe of bluff setback. And your bluff crest is actually up here, but we're not taking setbacks from that. So what they're requesting is to legalize existing stone patio around an existing swimming pool, which was legal, to legalize an existing set of stairs down the bluff face, which don't need to meet setbacks. They're exempt from setbacks. And then to create an addition over the existing residence itself, which is the new thing on the property. It's all requires a natural resource special permit. No variances are required. Fairly minimal amount of disturbance is going to be required. Yeah, that's about it.
So this is a way off on the western end of Old Montauk Highway?
This looks like it's very close to the beach.
It's beyond the toe of the bluff, though, I think, the setback from
The
the toe of the
toe
bluff.
is down here. Yeah, it's slopes up pretty steeply in the little flag strip that they get to the ocean. And then the top of that hill is right here. So it's flat up here. And it's pretty high up elevation.
Sounds like a lot of stone. The stone pool patio.
I've been to the property. It's a fairly standard patio around the residence, around the pool. It's not anything crazy.
So we're being asked, just to make it clear, that we have to legalize this, was that the pool patio as well? You just said it was legal, I thought.
The pool itself is legal. The patio is what they're requesting to legalize. So the patio, the stairs, and then to construct the new addition.
And no area variance is required.
Correct.
Can you just tell me, where is this? I know we're 214 and all, but it's off on the western.
Yeah, it's
end
west,
of-
it's to that, closer to the hills.
Yeah, it's right down,
The
it's
address
got to
is
be
no
down in there, right?
Yeah, it's pretty far down the west end, if I remember right.
So it's pretty close down.
Well, it'd have to be. We know where 214 and
Yeah,
230 were.
216
Yeah,
is- Yeah.
216, yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, this one here.
Wow, that's impressive.
Which one? So, okay.
Let me highlight.
You done it super quick.
Right here, this one. This is what the panorama, is that what that one's called?
Wave crest.
Wave
Wave
crest.
crest.
Yeah, panorama's further down. Yeah, so that's
Panorama's
wave
the other
crest.
way.
And so it's two lots over essentially.
There, it looks like it's more in perspective than the survey. I'm okay with it, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll agree.
Yeah, I guess so.
with the motion.
So it was done without a permit.
Yeah, it's bothersome.
You want me to make it? Okay. There you
Toss
go.
a coin.
Thank you. In the case of Christopher Watson at 180 Old Montauk Highway, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-87-3-23, I'd like to make a motion to allow this application to proceed administratively.
Second.
Concur.
I concur. Thank you. And we have minutes approval of March 14th.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals for March 14th, 2023.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Concur.
I concur. I concur. All right, next we go to resolutions. We have three of them. one is Mohammed Rima at 425 Cranberry Hill Road, Narragansett, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-128-1-32.1.
This application was to construct approximately 3,400 square foot two-story residence, 1,000 square feet of first floor decking, covered decking, an entryway, second floor decking, additional covered decking to that, a roof deck, a swimming pool, walkways, driveways, and upgrade the sanitary system. The applicant was seeking an NRSP permit only. There was no variances on this application due to the revised application. The proposed project meets all the required setbacks, does not require any variances for structures, and the applicant had further submitted a construction protocol addressing the issues and concerns of the board. As well as the applicant had taken the board's recommendations, revised the plan to allow for a similar design, indicating less of a disturbance to natural resources on the property and moving the pool. I'm gonna have to edit number 2. It says pull, so I'll edit it before I send it out. It's supposed to say pool. Pool further away from the zone, from the dune. The applicant further has offered a scenic easement of over 20,000 square feet, in which will serve to protect the adjacent properties. This application, the majority of the board found in favor of the application. The 2 dissenting parties was Member Savarese and Member Berger.
You have a motion?
Mohammed Grimmett, 425 Cranberry Hole Road, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-128-01-32.1. I make a motion to adopt the resolution as written.
I'll second it.
I concur.
I concur.
I concur. Thank you. Next, we have revocable trust of Robert E. Isaacson, 233 Gerard Drive in Springs, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-42-2-9.
Right, this is another revised application. The relief granted is different than the purpose of the application. So I'm going to read the relief granted. So what the board is granting is to demolish the existing one-story residence with the associated structures and to construct the new 1,284 square foot two-story residence with a 250 square foot wood deck, new sanitary system, storage and shower under the residence, clearing, regrading and new driveway. This did require a natural resources special permit, along with several variances, some which were decreased due to the revised application. The board did find that the improvements on the parcel will protect the natural resources, as the new proposed house will be approximately 57 feet back from the edge of the beach, and the house will be within the FEMA guidelines. The updated sanitary system will result in a significant reduction of impacts to the wetland and is in the best location possible. The additional improvements are proposed over the existing footprint of the property and will now meet the 4-foot vertical setbacks. Overall, the board thought that this application was within the spirit of the natural special permit resources application and granted it. The board, the majority of the board found in favor of the application. The dissenting party on this was Member Savarese.
Can I verify one thing on I sent you that note about the plans?
I went over it with Tyler.
Because we got this one, I brought it in case you want to see it, that we received on February 7th. And I didn't think I saw that in the revised one that
I definitely
that you sent
updated.
out. And I don't know, sometimes my iPad does weird things if I try to.
So I have the approved survey, which was February 6th, received February 7th. I have the approved septic, which was February 6th, received February 7th. And you're saying there's additional building plans that were not the January 19th, 2023?
Yeah. We got this whole submission on February 7th also.
The date, I think the date listed on there.
With the revisions that were made.
I mean, he resubmitted the whole thing. I remember the agent saying that.
The date on the bottom is
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that just has to
So
be.
for the building plans, that should be February 6th as well.
Right.
Received February 7th.
Keeping
Okay.
us honest.
Yeah.
Keeping
Listen.
us honest.
I struggled on this, so I wanted to see it.
Good
Okay.
catch, Terry.
I thought you were talking about the survey, so
No,
maybe
no, no,
earlier,
no.
because I didn't have the revised February 6th in there, so that's what I
okay.
thought you were talking about,
So
or the
my-
February
I
7th.
can't blame my iPad. All right.
So
A
that,
motion
will be
providing the,
With the amendment.
with the amendment.
yeah, I'll edit it before I send
Plans.
it out. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Go for it, Denise.
In the matter of the application of revocable trust of Robert E. Isaacson, 233 Gerard Drive, Springs, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-42-2-9. I make a motion that we approve the determination as written, incorporating the amendment to the building plans which were submitted February 6th, dated received February 7th.
Second.
Concur.
Good motion.
Concur.
Concur.
Next, we have Matthew Gazowski at 12 Gainsborough Court in
Right.
Montauk,
Hmm.
Suffolk Tax Map Number 300-19-4-23.
I don't know why it was. this
Yeah,
on
so
here?
this one is my fault too. So I was talking to the applicant on this, unfortunately, and realized the conditions were a little inconsistent. So that's the new town's policy that is, well, it's not the new, it's been kind of around and it's gone back and forth, but CNRs are going to be required prior to getting the building permit done and filed prior to. Easements are required at the CO and to be filed by the CO. Proof of filing to allow council the benefit, a good faith benefit, because the county takes so long for the actual filing. So we're allowing the proof of filing to meet that requirement.
Okay.
That's not what this read. It read that both were due at the CO. And then there was an additional paragraph in there that said that everything was due at the building permit. So the condition where everything's done at the building permit was removed and the CNR was changed back to being done before the building permit and the easement reads as before the CO was issued. So those were it was just a clarification on the conditions on that one. So I have edited it, just the conditions, nothing else changed.
Okay, but now we voted on this one before.
We did. So you're just
what
voting on the amended.
What amendment?
Yeah, just an amended determination.
Okay, so in the matter of Matthew Gazowski, 12 Gainsborough Court, Montauk, tax map 300-019-04-23, I make a motion to approve the amended determination as written.
Second.
I concur.
I concur.
I concur as well. All right, that ends our evening.
Are we going to talk about postings?
Well, yeah,
Does that have to go on during meeting or not?
there's a concern about postings and constantly having, is there a policy that we can set?
Sure, we can talk about that we're going to do exactly.
We're going to do exec session
Yeah,
next
so
week.
let's sneak
So
that.
maybe
Oh,
we
okay,
address
we
that.
don't have to talk about that in public?
What we'll do is we'll talk about it, and Zach will come up with our
then we'll come
policy and
up
our
and
plan, and then we'll make
Okay.
sure that it's reflected on the website and all the forms that we send out on how we want the
Okay,
posting.
but as far as the policy, if you read the application instructions that each applicant gets, it's clear about how it should be posted and what period of time and for the duration.
Like you
It's
mean the-
already in the procedure. We can look
Okay.
at it next week.
Yeah, let's take a look at it. Maybe it's not clear enough. Maybe it's not bolded.
pretty
Let's,
clear.
let's,
We should make
we'll
it,
definitely take a look at
we
it.
should make it be required to be hurricane proof.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Hey,
All right, Vice Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to close the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals meeting of Zoning Board of Appeals public hearing and work session of March 21st, 2023 at 8:53 PM.
I'll second.
Concur.
I concur.
I concur. Thank you.